Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Lori Cohen. I'm the Executive Director of the Beagle Alliance. We are very excited to have Sarien Slabbert here from P.E.A.C.E to talk about farm sanctuary, everything farm sanctuary, which I personally do not know a lot about. So I'm looking forward to this. We're kind of casual as usual, as many of you know, we usually are pretty casual on these town halls. So we're not really doing a presentation, aren't we? Welcome, Sarien. We're just chatting.
Yeah.
We're here to
Well, we decided we're gonna do kind of like a podcast kind of feel to it,
yeah,
right?
we're
Like,
chatting.
and have a group chat.
Yeah.
And so yeah, thank you so much everybody for being here. My name is Sarien Slabbert. I'm the co-founder and executive director of P.E.A.C.E, which stands for People Ensuring Animal Care Exists. We started here in BC in 2019 after myself and others were involved in 2 rescues. And we saw a need, especially in BC, for an organization that specializes in farmed animal rescue, who had the truck and the trailer ready, had the connections with the farm sanctuaries, and yeah, just all the good stuff. We've expanded since then, and our organization now has P.E.A.C.E Resources, which is free online resources for the public, as well as farm sanctuary operators. We have P.E.A.C.E Humane, which focuses on humane education, especially when it comes to farm sanctuaries and offering compassionate alternative for classrooms. One of the big things that we launched a couple of years ago is the Chick It Out app as an alternative to chick hatching in classrooms, as well as we this year through grant support was able to create these school lesson plans for school tours for people visiting, looking for a compassionate alternative to petting zoos, coming to farm sanctuaries and still having an educational edge to it. So that's something that we're very proud of for P.E.A.C.E Humane. Other than that, we have P.E.A.C.E Farm Sanctuary that just started in 2022 when we moved to our bigger property here in Mission, BC. We were excited to start with a rooster micro sanctuary because we wanted to make the word micro sanctuary a little bit more mainstream. And we wanted to show that roosters can live together, as my husband calls on our little security camera, the dino den for the boys. That's how we started. And we are actually the first micro sanctuary in the world that got accredited by the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries, and second farm sanctuary in Canada. And so if you know any farm sanctuaries that you're like, come on guys, get going, I would really appreciate you promoting that to them too, as a great way to make sure that everybody's doing a great job in that space. Other than that, we have the Billy Fund, which is a very close to our heart little fund that we have for farm sanctuaries in Canada. And that goes towards helping anyone, hey Jamie, anyone with animals, farm sanctuaries with animals with disabilities. And so we have a small little grant to help them out if they're kind enough to be able to rescue somebody, because there's a lot of costs involved with anybody with disabilities, as all of us know, even within the compassionate animal section. So yeah, that's a little quick blurb about us. Yeah.
So let's just talk. As we said, we're just going to chat. So
Yes.
if anyone wants to pop in with questions, we'll just go with that. But I have a first question about you guys being, was it certified, or explain what that looks like and what are the standards? What did you have to accomplish to get that kind of sort of significant certification, I guess? Accreditation.
Yeah, they actually have 2 tiers, which is a verification.
Okay.
Yeah, there's verification and then accreditation. One thing that we did early on, and this was a lot of work, was we did the Imagine Canada accreditation, which is kind of something that you just as a charity can take, anybody as a charity. And it was just for us because we really wanted, because we worked with so many farm sanctuaries, we really wanted to be able to put a good foundation down. And we also believe in leading by example. As a charity and being a young charity, we know you have maybe a little bit more time at the beginning to get kind of those groundwork things done, because you get so busy and just so much to do when the bigger you get, the more busy you get. And so it was really important for us for that groundwork. So a lot of the stuff from Imagine Canada was able to transfer onto the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries accreditation as well. So things like making sure you meet all the standards for your board, for your operations, all your policies, everything like that. They Imagine Canada gives you kind of templates to work off of. So it was really great to do that first. And then it was a great foundation. And then GFAST is that, making sure your charity is following good rules so that you're doing best practices for your donors, but also for animal care. So that was more something, especially as a young organization, we wanted to make sure that we're doing the best by the individuals that we're giving a home to, and also through our rescue. So they just go through a whole checklist of things that you have to make sure, as well as contingency. Like we have an emergency fund that we had to create. We have to have contingency planning. We have to have succession planning in place. So just a whole bunch of different things that I think a lot of us, when we're in the muck of it, it's really hard to sometimes make sure that we do that, or make it a priority. It's almost like that gives you that panic monster for the procrastination. Anybody who can get that, and it gives you the panic monster to get those things done, and make sure that you're doing the best by what you're doing for the individuals you give a home to, as well as for the public who donates to you, of course.
Of course.
Does
Yeah.
that kind of answer it? I kind of went on a ramble a bit.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's huge. So, and please, I'm just going to ramble on and ask questions. So if anybody, please go ahead and interrupt me or use the Zoom hand, whatever you want to do. So what animal, who's there right now? Who's there? Who are the animals?
Oh, for the actual farm sanctuary, we have 6 roosters, 2 ducks. So we're really pretty small still, considered micro sanctuary in my eyes. 6 roosters, 2 ducks, 3 goats, and 2 large pigs. But we also have 2 goats, new rescues that we haven't posted about or anything like that, that just came in, and we just got their blood work results today. Because one of the things that we do with the barn is we offer temporary foster till we were able to get them vet checked, get them neutered, get making sure everybody's good. And so we had a sanctuary, actually kitchen sink rescue farm sanctuary out in Sunshine Coast. They were going to take them if they were Yoni's positive, because we test for different diseases. We would have been able to give them a home because we have a CL positive goat herd. And then if they were clean, a home for hooves on Vancouver Island, and Duncan can give them a home. I just got their blood work. They're all clean, but they're 2 little boys, and I need to get them neutered and still dewormed and everything. So they'll still be with us for at least a month or 2 before we transport them. So that's one of the fun things that was really helpful, because for 3 years, we really worked on stress emergency, like, oh, we have to go pick up now, transport now. Our volunteers had to like kind of jump in. Now it's a lot more stressless, with being able to just pick them up, being able to bring them here, get them vet checked before, make sure everything's okay before we place them at a home.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's what's hard about for us being a foster-based rescue, is that they go straight into the homes. And, we educate and we speak with our fosters quite a bit in advance. Obviously, we really prepare them as best we can. But of course, then they're dealing with veterinary stuff. It'd be great to have a place where we could just kind of decompress and then go, okay, here they go.
Right?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
nice.
it's so fun. It was such a big relief for me when we were able to get the property and the barn was already here. And we were able to get grant funding to be able to put concrete flooring in as well. So that's easy for sanitization and everything like that.
Yeah.
But also talking about kitchen sink rescue, they were actually the ones that were able to take in. I found out back in 2019, it's been a while, but it feels like yesterday, they were able to take in a pig from a university here in BC, talking about animal testing.
Yeah.
And they were able to take in a pig, Petunia. And the only reason they were able to take her in was due to the fact that it was advocates within the space, like the staff and what do you call it, students,
Mhm.
who were advocating for her, because she wasn't being used for, I guess, something that would be a biosecurity risk. it was just some medication that wouldn't
Okay.
be causing any issues if she was released.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think talking about rescue and talking about, I know that's one subject that we were going to discuss because you and I spoke at length about it before, Lori, is how hard it is to be able to advocate for them sometimes, to be able to release them from labs or even for us from farms, because it's the same, I think, across the board. Honestly, there's this fear that they would be painted in a bad light, the people that are giving the animal free. And so you really have to, as an advocate and as a rescue person, have systems in place where you make sure that you know that their privacy is protected. Like, you wouldn't leak their information of who they are to be able to have that relationship, which makes it really tricky. And I saw a talk you did with Maddie Crasto and them, Lori, about the fact that that is the hard part for you as well, because you kind of have to talk to them and be in the space of feeling uncomfortable and having to build those relationships, but you need to do that to be able to rescue. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that yourself.
Yeah, and I like to say that we're always walking a thin line, and we have a friend who we work with in the States who it's the same thing, and their organization has been criticized for working with the laboratories, and sort of accused of facilitating animal testing because he refuses to pound down the doors and call their names out. And so I think, I mean, the States is a little bit different because the laws are different. Of course, there is legislation that protects animals in research in the United States, whereas we in Canada do not have that legislation. So for us, we are walking a really thin line because we have to have relationships eventually with these laboratories, because if they view us as a threat, they're under no legal obligation to work with us to release the animals. It's completely legal for them to euthanize all of the animals, which is pretty much what's happening right now. Unless you get the odd story where, a university, I'll hear from somebody that somebody's, child is in a university course or veterinary course, and they offered to let them, adopt a hound, or it's very, very few and far between. So yeah, we absolutely do have to form relationships. And that doesn't mean that we're advocating for them. We're pretty clear in saying, look, we would love for you to consider non-animal use in science. But in the meantime, while you're thinking about that, you've got a bunch of animals that you could release to us. So that's the approach that we have to take. And hopefully we can do that. And I just want to apologize for my lighting. I'm sorry. The sun is now going down. I had a last minute foster dog situation. So as Sarien knows, I got on a little late. So I'm just going to apologize right now as my light gets dimmer and dimmer. So my apologies. Anyway, so you live there, Sarien. You're on the property.
Correct.
May I ask if it's your property or, yeah, so that's amazing. So,
Yeah, it's there's kind of like, it's really hard to get a because there's a couple of sanctuaries here locally that I know who have tried and have succeeded. But as a nonprofit or a charity, it's really hard to get mortgage approval. Like, you have to have a pretty high down payment to be able to buy land under the charity's name. So the
okay,
best way really to do it is to have the owners and then sign a contract with the charity directly. So our to leave it in our will. I think if you're able to, which two sanctuaries have been able to do through massive fundraising as well as huge grant gifts, and legacy funds. I think the more you grow, the idea is hopefully in the future it would be just under the charity's name, but
right.
currently it's our property and they lease it at pretty much $0 a month, just to be able to I know. It's like,
It's just the
so
world of small rescue when you're first starting out. You just do. I mean, all the dogs land in my yard. If they come into Manitoba, they're all in my yard at some point.
well, we started off in a townhouse and having roosters in our bathrooms and chickens and goats in our garage. And we joked we would have just told the neighbors, oh, the kids are watching a farm just TV show or something if somebody complained. But most of our neighbors were really sweet. They were always like, what's going on? What are you guys doing? When the trailer would show up, like,
Right.
because we would have to park. We had a sanctuary that was able to keep the trailer for us on their site. And then we would just go get it whenever we needed it. So yeah, it was pretty. And then everybody's like, because it's like a huge stock trailer and these like little modern townhouses driving in, and people are just like, what's going on? What do you guys have today?
I know. I always tell myself in my dream world, if I actually have a place here where the beagles can come, you start thinking about where it's going to go, how it's going to look. And the first thing that pops in my brain is, I wonder how much I'm going to have to pay for it to be soundproof, because how am I going to have like 15 howling my dog Poppy is bad enough. I think the neighbors think I'm torturing her, because if it's time for a walk, she's going ballistic. I cannot imagine like 15 beagles howling. So I start thinking, yeah, I wonder what that'll look like in my town.
You'll have to move out to the boons like us, like all
Right?
us farm sanctuary folk, because you can't complain. Like as long as you follow rules, there's lots of rules about if you live in the boons in the farm agricultural zone, that there's smells, there's noises, you just have to
Get a
put up
moment.
with everything.
Yeah.
Um
And I'm in rural
yeah, we have got
Manitoba,
like
but you're still like, I think to myself, there's enough people around that they would hear some howling beagles, unless they just assume they were coyotes, I would hope. Who knows?
yeah. What it's like 2 a.m. here for us, coyotes. You're just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
hi guys. Everybody's safe and in their little
Oh,
enclosures,
yeah.
predator-proof enclosures. So you're just like, hi, boys. We have actually a Mexico rescue that one of our volunteers brought over from Mexico. She runs a charity herself, Forgotten Souls. And so they do spay neuter clinics out there. And so we fell in love with her and she stayed, but she looks like a coyote. So I'm always like telling people, because she's a Mexican street dog. And
Yeah.
so it's just like we have to keep her collar on. But then when the coyotes start howling at sometimes 11, sometimes 2, sometimes 4, she's in our living room howling with them. And we're just like, this is life. This is
Yeah.
just life.
Yeah,
So
I have literally, I've taken a nosedive from my bed to the window as soon as I hear the coyotes, in hopes that they don't wake my dogs up and I can just like stop it before it happens.
aw. But
So
yeah,
now, okay, so who are the animals that you take in? Who is the call? Who calls you and says, I need you?
we get a lot of people who might have animals for companion animals. And then due to divorce, due to health changes or a family member dying, or moving, like no different than companion animals, a lot of requests don't think ahead and then they contact us asking for help. We get I've had farmers' wives. Usually it's not so much the farmer themselves, but more people around them. I found, maybe Jamie can mention someone else that she's worked with. Because Jamie here is from Lily's Place.
Oh,
Wait.
okay. Well, awesome. So I'm in, Jamie, please.
Yes. So I think like for us, it was like the farmer's wife, the neighbors, the 4-H student, the kids on the farm workers usually will advocate if they fall in love with someone. And then yeah, that's pretty much who we work with. And then the one lab, because yeah, labs are very,
Okay.
I know universities they do use farmed animals. But like you said, it's really hard to get
Yeah.
anybody surrendered from there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Jamie, you may chime in. Oh, your sound's not on.
We're just
There.
we're into
I-
putting you on the
Right.
spot.
Hear me now?
Yes. and
Technical
just wanted to put you on
difficulty.
the
Yeah, I was
spot.
like, oh, which microphone's connected right now? There's 3.
Well, welcome.
Hi. Yeah, I think you hit on every pretty much scenario. We had 4 goats come in from the SPCA earlier this week, and we have had 1 farmer surrender. And that was Rosie, who Sarien helped right through the Billy Fund. So yeah, I think that was the only farmer so far, but yeah.
And
Yeah, usually animals with disabilities sometimes. Like I
Yeah.
think I've had like a chicken here or
Yeah.
there.
sorry, you guys, I missed Jamie. Where are you from? I want to just look you up and pop you in the chat there.
Yeah, I'm out in New Brunswick. Lily's
Oh
place.
my gosh. Okay.
East Coast.
The other
East
side.
Yeah, the other side. So it's well, it's late. Thanks for joining us. It's late. So what is the name of your organization?
Lily's place. I'll put it in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. There we go. Lily's Place Animal Sanctuary.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't know if you caught Jamie, but she was one of our Rosie, one of her beautiful residents. That they're helping a lot. She was able to use the Billy Fund last year to help her a little bit.
that's
Pay for
awesome. Yeah.
prosthetics.
Mhm.
So who comes to you, Jamie? Who is it? Same sort of situation? Farm, usual domestic issues, or how does that work for you guys?
Oh, you're breaking up a lot.
Am I breaking up a lot?
Beep.
You're
Yeah.
breaking up a lot.
I can't hear you at all. Maybe turn the camera off. Do you think? Oh, there she's back.
Am I back? This has actually never happened in a Zoom. I mean, in a town hall. It frequently happens, but somehow it's never happened in a town hall, right, B? Okay.
Oh, B's sounds off.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Apologies. Well, I guess that takes care of my terrible lighting situation anyway. So
But we don't get to see your beautiful face.
Sorry, thank you. Thanks. This has never happened in a town hall. I was saying usually it happens, but it doesn't happen in a town hall. So it is what it is though. So what I was asking Jamie, is it the same situation for you? Is it drop off, domestic drop offs, or who calls you guys out there?
We get a lot of hobby farms and petting zoos wanting to surrender animals to us. Typically they're about 2 years old and all the babies have been born and they want to make room for the babies.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, we're in like homesteading petting zoo country out here.
Rural, yeah.
Okay. And so did you guys, again, obviously everyone here can tell this is very casual, and that's exactly what Sarien and I said. It would be just a conversation hanging out. But so how did you guys meet? In terms of, did you guys know each other before, or did you meet just doing this work and connecting in Canada?
Yeah.
That was it.
The latter.
Okay. Have you been to each other's places?
No.
No, it's on the
Okay.
to-do. It's on the to-do when I one day have lots of money.
Yeah.
Right? She's
And I can
laughing.
step away from the sanctuary for
Right? My
days, yeah.
anxiety won't let me, like I'm like a paid employees, and then I can go. Yeah.
That's it. That's the bar.
I just
Paid
said it the
employees.
other day to somebody too. I was just like, they're like, well, you need to take a vacation sometime. I'm like, yeah, when I get paid employees.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
I know.
I know, that's hilarious. That's the bar. I know every single day, at least one friend calls me and says, what are you doing? And my answer is trying to find beagles and trying to find money. That's my job.
It's an
Trying to
important job.
rescue, yeah, it's an important job, trying to rescue beagles, make labs give them up, and finding money so that we can take care of them. So funny.
Yeah, it's universal. I find I've sat in with a few, like, what would you call them? Webinars. I want to say podcast because that's what's in my head right now. Sat in with a couple of webinars before, and just general nonprofits, and I feel like it's universal. Like so many things that everybody is suffering and stressed out about. It's so universal. We all have it.
Same situation. So now when I'm just trying to think about the questions I had in my head. So the animals, so you're the main caregiver, obviously. So you know all the animals personally, you know they're
One of them.
one of them. Okay. Okay. Now, does anyone ever come by and say, I want that animal, I will adopt? Does that happen?
Oh no, I'm thinking of like, I want that animal. Are they for sale? Like I sometimes get like delivery truck drivers that not getting the concept of what a sanctuary is. Be like, oh, you've got chickens. Can I buy one? And I'm like, no, like that's not what we are.
Oh, you thinks he can buy one to eat?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, your goats. Oh, they're so good. Like, can I buy one? I'm like, no,
Oh,
like that's
no
not what we
kidding.
are. Like, so
Okay.
then you have to explain the concept and they sometimes don't get it. No. So for public fostering, I think it's a little bit different, and it's a lot more stressful for in the space that we are, because it's hard to explain. So it'd be like the same thing as trying to find fosters for a place that eats dogs, right? Like in a space where people are eating dogs, finding foster for them. So it's like for us within the farm animal space, like people might lie and be like, yeah, I'll give them a home, and you go do a home check and everything like that. You really need to have good systems in place to do background checks and home checks and everything like that. We were just not in the space to be able to facilitate that yet. Because I know there's a situation with a rescue, not us or anybody we affiliated with, but they homed a pig and that pig ended up on a spit. So like, we don't want that to happen.
Really?
And
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because people lie.
Yes.
So,
There is a
so
dark side to rescue. We discussed that. We know there's a dark side to rescue, and we've had our share of experiences. Thankfully, they're very few and far between, and dogs are dogs in our society. So it is most definitely an easier situation because dogs are so revered, and we're lucky that way. But yeah, there's that dark side, isn't there? Where
yeah, and then the other side really is where the word sanctuary isn't really regulated. So anybody can pretend to, I'm waiting for the day that hobby farms are going to start using the word farm sanctuary or just sanctuary to be able to appeal to a certain crowd. Because we already as an organization had the issue of people being upset that not all farm sanctuaries are vegan. And so people assume if you have farmed animals and you rescue farm animals, the organization themselves would at least be vegetarian, if not vegan. And so we've had to deal with that in the past. And that's why when we created that farmed animal sanctuary map under our resources website, which lists all the farm sanctuaries in Canada that we're aware of and then have information about them. We created a specific category for that, to show people who's vegan, who are not. Because especially if a space, it starts off as a dog and cat rescue, I find, and then just naturally expand to farmed animals, they most likely are not vegan. Because if you have those interactions, people have gone and volunteered thinking they're vegan, and then other people are getting upset with a rooster and saying, oh, this rooster's so annoying, they're going to end up in a pot, or it's going to end up in a pot soon. So things like that, for someone who's coming to it in a very compassionate space, that's not something they want to support, correct? So yeah, that's one of the hard thing is that the word sanctuary, going back to the word sanctuary not being regulated, and because of the low barrier of entry, anybody can start a farm sanctuary. And there's even situations of stories of people pretending to be a sanctuary, taking animals, and then on the down low, selling them at auction or selling them or killing them themselves.
No kidding.
No, it's a known fact. There's known organizations who do that. So because there's such a huge need, like we have a wait list for people looking for homes. So especially for within the space of rehoming a companion animal. So if people just see farm sanctuary, they think, oh, they'll be safe. And they're like, I need to home them. So they give them to those organizations and then never check in again. And so that's why they get to kind of function in that way, because nobody catches that they do it, but people within the space know about them and what they're doing.
Right.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
Okay, so there's so many things I need to talk about. I need to ask you about there. That was like a lot. Okay.
I'm sorry.
No,
Like
that
I
was
told you, I can just.
no, I mean, that was a lot of important and disturbing information at the same time. And so, because it's, and somewhat, and we did a town hall, our last town hall actually was about the dog sledding industry. And it was a fantastic, I mean, there were things I had no idea about. I felt really ignorant sitting there because here I am in my own country where it's very prevalent. It was very enlightening. But on top of it, there were so many similarities to what we as the Beagle Alliance are doing, and just the lack of legislation, there's the, even as you said about keeping quiet and that kind of thing. So, the definition of sanctuary. So essentially we could look up that definition, but there's no legislation around that word. So basically it can be used as a marketing tool is really what we're saying here. Okay. And that said, then people are so basically you have a property, you could call it a sanctuary. People assume there's no, that use of a word, you could use it in your business, you could use it anywhere, and there's not a certain, okay, that makes, okay. So
You don't even have to register it, right?
Yeah.
Because unless you are somebody else has that name already, catches you and says, and they're registered and they might sue you to not have their name. There's nothing really, you can make up a name. You don't even have to register it. You don't have to register as a nonprofit. That's why we really make sure to highlight the sanctuaries that do register as nonprofits. You don't have to register as a charity.
Right.
You don't have to register as a charity. Again, that's why we highlight people who do that, because there's so many added, I don't know, checklists in a sense, and that's why we advocate for the accreditation too within our space, because there is no regulation.
Okay, so you can call yourself a sanctuary, and yeah, therefore you have no nonprofit status, nothing governmental that would show that there's been some sort of steps or due diligence that's been done. Okay.
No, they can pocket the money themselves anytime. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And do you have, I would imagine that you have people who have run into that and then come to you guys, and it's a whole different experience.
Like run into organizations that aren't doing it the right way, or
Correct.
aren't
And then,
nonprofits, or
sorry.
no, like, yeah, because within this space, like people used to think, like one thing that we constantly, and we had to put it in our FAQ section, is that we're not a policing body for farm sanctuaries. We're a support and resource organization, because nobody technically can be a policing. And even for us, like I know each province is different, but here in BC, for us as an organization, we don't have a working relationship with the SPCA, because usually if they take animals here locally for us, they take them to auction, or they work with farmers directly to rehome with farmers. So that's the working relationship they have. So if the only regulatory organization within BC that can confiscate or do checks of making sure an organization is doing the due diligence of doing a good job for animal care is the SPCA. But then as an organization ourselves, if we do call on the SPCA, if it gets bad enough, that means that those animals will probably end up at auction or at an industrial farm. So it's really hard. You try and work with people, but it's very much on what do you call it? Like a good faith relationship.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you don't have that good faith relationship with people, then you can't do anything, right? Like, and even then somebody might be having a bad day and you go like, hey, what's going on? Are you doing okay? Like, I saw this post, blah, blah, blah. And then they might get mad at you for it. So it's really tricky, right? So it's hard to try and help, but dealing with a lot of different personalities like you do in life, no matter what you do. And if there's nothing kind of doing the checks and making sure people are doing the best, people can get away with murder.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah. No, and it reminds me, and we don't frequently do this, but you know, it says right in our mission statement that we, you know, rescue animals from testing facilities, but also abandoned, neglected, harmed animals. So, you know, and just by the nature of our name, we will get calls about beagles in any sort of fashion. So of course we've placed beagles who were abandoned after hunting, or they were about to be shot and killed because they were done with the hunting season. So therefore they're done with the dogs. But in Manitoba, backyard breeding and puppy mills is a huge, huge issue. And so we have had the odd abandonment in the middle of, you know, wherever, of beagles that somebody decided they were going to breed because they're super adorable, but it really takes a seriously strong-willed person to have a beagle. And because it's a battle of wits on an hourly basis.
Well, they're so smart.
They're so smart and they're crafty. I mean, they are literally the craftiest, and they are like, they have these feline qualities that allows them to walk on counters and every other surface like a cat. So, you know, you have to sort of be on the ball to have, you know, a hound. But people don't realize that. So they're super cute. They start out and then, you know, this dog's escaping and doing all the beagle hound things. And so, but that's the backyard breeder situation here. But again, you know, people call them rescues. People call them, you know, they can say whatever. They sell them on, you know, whatever marketplace they can get on. And meanwhile, they're living in horrible conditions and people are just trying to make money off of, you know, them at 8 weeks old, basically, with, you know, probably happening in every rural community somewhere in Manitoba. It's going on without anybody being the wiser. And
But
so
probably
it's,
Canada wide, I'm sure, because I know it's like everywhere.
yeah, probably Canada
Isn't
wide.
it probably everywhere?
I would imagine it is, wherever, in the same way that I say to people that, you know, that don't know that animal testing happens in Canada, that because the private laboratories don't have to follow the Canadian Council on Animal Care, and they could be a business in your backyard, a building that doesn't even have a sign on it, and they could have animals and they're testing on them and they're doing their thing without anybody knowing it, and it's legal, obviously, in Canada.
Well,
So
I think, yeah, no, and with us, it's very similar with pot bellies, or as people like to call mini pigs, where
right.
breeders sell you babies and say this is the mom. Because the thing is, pigs can have babies pretty early on in their lives, but they grow till past 3 years old. They grow to be pretty big. And so they can show pictures of a mom being really tiny and say, oh, this is how big your pig's gonna stay, but that's not a fully grown mom. And then they sell these mini pigs who end up not being mini and ends up eating people's walls because they're like beagles, they're super smart. And if you don't entertain them, they get bored and then they get into things and they're super strong. Like if you want anybody to test your fencing, get some pot-bellied pigs and goats. Especially pot bellies. They've bent some of our fencing here. So yeah, so that's funny that when you said beagles running on counters, my brain went to pigs eating walls. And so it's a very, very similar experience.
Yeah, and it's true. People just try to, it's almost like a certain animal becomes a trend, and then it's like a commodity, and these animals end up getting dumped in the end. And I'll be honest, and Chris, I'm putting Chris on the spot. You don't have to show yourself, Chris, but um when we speak about the Invigo breeding facility rescue, it almost became a thing to have an Invigo Beagle. And of course, there was over 4,000 of them placed across, the majority of the United States. And then, we have some in Canada, and some other rescues brought some into Canada, I believe. But it's like it became a thing to have an Invigo Beagle. And now what we're seeing slowly is that shelters, which are already overcrowded, and many of them are kill shelters in the United States right now, many of those beagles are ending up in the shelter because people didn't know what they were getting into. And, if you think a well-adjusted beagle is a lot to handle, and they are, just by nature of being a hound, they're just, they're crafty and smart. But a dog from animal testing comes with its share of other behavioral issues. And so it's lots. It takes a lot of patience, and we are seeing that but it was a trendy thing. It was something else to have an Invigo breeding facility beagle. And now, of course, the sad part is that some of them are ending up in the shelters, which is too bad. And I guess the best hope for something like the mini pig situation is that they land in a sanctuary like yours or like Jamie's. That would be the best case scenario for them.
I saw Jamie sigh. But it's just because we get
No, Jamie, is that a big no?
We get so many requests for potbellies here, and Jamie noted in the chat that where they are, it's dwarf goats for breeders that they get a lot of requests for. So I think it's just hard because you're like trying to figure out how you can educate the public, but also support the ones that are trying to rehome, but not having enough homes, like sanctuaries, especially here in BC, like land is so expensive. I know it's worldwide, but it's just like you need to be able to give farmed animals a good home. You need a lot of space because a lot of hooves on land causes a lot of issues with water and health and things like that. So you always have to consider that. So even at a farm sanctuary, people might come, they see this huge field and they're like, you could rescue so many animals. You're like, no, I can't, because this will be a mud pit in a day if we fill it up. You have to think of the health of everybody you're giving home to already too. So yeah, it's just, I'm probably going on another tangent now, but like, so yeah, it's really hard to help everybody. And like, I think the top requests we get here in BC, and Jamie can maybe say what she gets over there, is pot-belly pigs and roosters. And that's why we started with rooster micro sanctuary, and we get a lot of requests for pigs. I have a long list for pigs, so it's really hard to home. Yeah.
Okay, so let's speak to that. Are the pigs then, is that pretty much the situation where somebody thought they were getting a cute little baby pig that would be the size of a dog and it wasn't, and now they're questioning and going, I can't do this? Is that
Yes, and they also don't check bylaws. People don't check bylaws because they think, oh, no different than a dog. And then the bylaw officers come knocking if the neighbors complain because their flower beds are getting destroyed or their fences are getting destroyed.
Sure.
So pigs are really smart. They can be house trained, but it's just people don't check their bylaws. And yes, it's also more to do with usually with oh, they get bored and then they get more aggressive possibly. But the reason they're aggressive is because they're bored. No different than, I think, if you look at dogs and other animals that have I guess issues with being very left alone and needing emotional and mental stimulation. So yeah, no, usually it's people think they'll stay small so they can hide them in and carry them in their little bags, and I don't know what people think, but it's like, I'm assuming that's kind of what they're going for, the trend, like you were saying with the Beagle thing.
Yeah.
And then it's a whole different ball game when they get them. And they
Wow.
grow up to be, what is it, like 300 pounds, Jamie? Yeah, approximately
Yeah,
300 pounds.
healthy. Usually they're overweight and they're a lot more, right?
Yeah.
So a mini pig is so what is a normal mini pig is about 300 pounds? Because
Fully
even
grown.
like I had no idea. I thought maybe 120 pounds, like a big German Shepherd.
No, but they're little bullets.
They're
So
little
they're
bullets.
they're
Okay.
muscle bullets. So you're
Yeah.
looking at muscle bullets and they're usually 300. But yeah, Jimmy made a really good point about the fact that a lot of them do come over obese to you.
Right.
Like a
Right.
lot of them, people overfeed them. So they're bigger than 300 pounds when they're fully grown with a lot of
Yeah.
health issues.
People overfeed beagles too, so there's a big similarity there. Beagles talk you into it though. That's the thing.
Pigs talk you into it too.
What about why roosters? Where do the roosters come from? Why is that what's up with roosters? I had a rooster. I could only have one though, and he was outstandingly beautiful. I mean, they're so beautiful. He was gorgeous. But he did rule the roost. I was never going to bring in a second rooster, or else I mean it would have been the proverbial fight, right? But why roosters? Where do they come from?
Well, a lot of them are dumped. So you find them, you know, those videos that you see of people driving on a dirt road and the puppies come running to them. Now just picture a rooster running or seeing roosters on the side. And we have one that was like in a park that somebody found in the city that somebody dumped. Usually in municipalities where you're allowed backyard chickens, people don't realize they mean hens, not roosters. So because the
Oh,
roosters
okay.
are not allowed because
Okay.
of bylaw issues, usually noise is the main concern because they like to cock-a-doodle-doo all the time. People think it's just in the mornings, but
Oh, true.
it's all the time,
Yeah.
anytime. Which we love. We love them. That's why I'm saying a beagle will not be an issue and out here because it's like you got the roosters, you got the goat. The goats are so loud too. They're like, "Hey, what's up? Give me food."
Well,
So
they are the
everybody's
best
really loud.
watchdogs on the planet. Having a
Yeah,
goat is the best watchdog you'll ever get, so to speak.
I think donkeys
No,
actually are.
donkeys. I think
Yeah,
donkeys. You're right.
well,
Donkeys.
donkeys and llamas.
Yeah, you're right.
So going back to my little rooster boys, also sexing chicks are really hard. So even if you do backyard hens, sometimes sexing gets wronged. Like, you know, like when they check the sexing of the baby at the egg hatching facilities. So you might end up with a rooster. Also, if people decide to do those egg hatching projects at home, there's like a 50-50 chance you're gonna get a boy or a girl, and people don't realize that.
Kidding? Wait, just a sec. Let's back up. I wish my camera was on. Um, what? Like, what do you mean? So people do, just explain that, please. Like, people are
Which part?
well, the home, like Frankenstein chick making situation. What is happening with that?
Oh, you mean like with the egg hatching?
Yeah, people are doing that at home.
No. You mean egg hatching or you mean egg sexing?
Well,
Sexting.
you said when people do their egg at home and they have a 50-50 chance of it being,
Yeah.
people do that at home?
That's why we came up with the Chick It Out app, because we wanted people to stop, like, have an educational alternative. Also, schools do it.
I
Where they
remember
have
in school, but I thought they knew what they were doing.
No, like we've had to home. Sometimes people don't realize because even with those egg hatching like kits that people can buy with the eggs, a lot of those organizations don't take the eggs, like the chicks, back afterwards because they're not gonna, and if they do, they just usually turn them into dog food. Like it, and then when people find out, oh, they're gonna die, which I'm like, what else is going to happen? They decide, they're like, well, we don't want them to die. And then they try and reach out to farm sanctuaries. That's why they get really bombarded during springtime with schools and people hatching, just deciding, oh, this would be a fun educational thing. I think there was out east, actually, there was a real issue with the duck hatching during COVID. People decided it would be fun to do some duck hatching with their kids during COVID, being stuck at home. And there was like a whole news thing about it too, because sanctuaries were like, you guys, this is ridiculous with how many requests we're getting. Yeah, Jamie says she has a duck from that. We've homed chicks from chick hatching projects. But again, sanctuaries are really scared to take chicks because again, you don't know if they're going to be a hen or a rooster till they start cock-a-doodle-dooing around 6 months, 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
And so you can also and that's why we wanted to break the stigma of roosters, because if we create a fully rooster sanctuary, and I think Jamie's actually doing that as well, then a lot of sanctuaries can take the hens and then we will take the roosters, because we love this triangle chicken advocates out in the States who started it. I think they have 30 roosters living together in a flock. And so if you can keep the boys separate and there's no girls around, they still fight because they're hormonal and they're boys and they're just beautiful. But it's like, at least it's less fighting and there's less of a chance of it being severe fighting if there's no girls to fight over, because it's just their natural instinct that you just have to respect.
Yeah, absolutely. But I didn't know that they could live together. I was unaware that they could actually cohabitate like that, but that makes sense. What I didn't know is that you could go and buy egg hatching kits, and that is unbelievable to me. And also the whole COVID thing, because that was a very big deal. That was a big deal in the whole rescue world as well, is that people, of course, we could see it coming, where in the world of finding fosters and adopters, and the Beagle Alliance didn't exist at this point. My rescue director, Mary, and I worked for another organization, and finding fosters and adopters was very easy. And indeed, we have a very special group of fosters and adopters because our dogs are a special situation. But you could see it coming a mile away, where people were adopting dogs left, right, and center. And then, of course, even now, all these years after, it's still, you see the shelters in the United States especially really overrun, and a lot of that is people returning dogs, so to speak, after COVID and going back to work. But I honestly would have never imagined that with chicken. It would have never occurred to me that that was going on. That's just fascinating and sad.
Yeah, and I think it's because we still live in an education system in general where using animals for educational purposes is not looked at as unethical yet. And I'm saying yet because we're going to work on it, all of
Yeah,
us.
absolutely.
So I think that's why, yes, there is a sense that technology and kids are an issue, like too much technology, but I also look at it as a beautiful tool to be able to take away those cruel practices that people might not consider cruel at this point till you really talk to them about why it's cruel. And that's why we based the Check It Out app off of the Frogopedia app that was out there, which is more about finding an alternative to dissecting frogs. I know there's a lot of amazing organizations that have worked towards trying to promote alternative in classrooms and for schools, homeschool groups, everybody, to be able to stop using animals. I remember myself, I love biology, but I actually didn't take biology 12 in school because I didn't feel like I had a voice to say no, I didn't want to open up a pig. Luckily, I was able to do biology 12 after the fact at a night school, and they offered an option for not cutting it open. And this was before I was even vegetarian. So I didn't want to do it even back then. So I know there are people out there that we just have to connect with to be able to facilitate these changes, but it's going to change takes a long time, and it's already further along than when we were young. So only up we go.
Yeah, it'll change. We're working on a humane education program right now to talk about alternatives and to engage the science and chemistry and those students specifically, also the advocates and, grade 12 students who are thinking about going into law and things like that. But just, it crosses so many different educational areas that, it could get kids thinking. But again, the technology, I think, just like anything, is if it's used in the right, if it's used as a tool as opposed to the way it's abused right now, then that's great. So in the same way that a lot of the computer modeling is used in place of animals in research, that is a positive. And so hopefully we can move towards those things so that animals don't have to be used in science or in education.
Beautifully summed up.
Well, thanks. Right at the 8:30 mark my time.
6:30 here.
6:30.
Oh, Jamie, what's it over there? Bees with me and
11:30, 10:30?
10:30.
10:30. Oh my
oh
God.
my goodness.
Well,
Stephanie, where are you? Stephanie and Chris, are they local to you, Lori?
no.
He's in New Brunswick.
Chris, what state are you in?
Oh, he's probably dealing with the kids.
Oh, it might be. Or you might be typing it, Chris. Oh, there it is, Washington. I couldn't remember.
Oh, in the States.
Apologies, I couldn't remember. Yeah, I knew.
I saw Stephanie for 2 seconds.
Pipe in if you'd like, Stephanie. If not, we don't want to put another person
Yeah,
on the
sorry.
spot like we do.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
this is going on YouTube. Oh, wait,
Yeah. So
you can cut
actually,
this out.
it does say that on our sign up, but we will say it again that we do put all of our town halls on YouTube and on our website, of course, because we love sharing these. So I will just ask you if you have any last thoughts about what you're doing. What's your next plan? What am I going to see when I get there in a month?
Oh my goodness. As projects go, it always takes forever. We are finishing up the enclosures up in the forest. We're working on an inclusive natural playground for kids. And because we're going to start our spring tours and school. We have a homeschool group coming end of May, which will be after you're here, to help us plant some pumpkins in the veganic farm.
Awesome.
And then we'll come back in the fall to harvest them for themselves. So yeah, it's just a bunch of ongoing prep and work and things like that, and rescues whenever they come up, because you just do that as they come. So you can't schedule that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
How about you, Lori? What are you up to now? Other than coming to visit me?
Finding beagles and finding money. We're in the middle of a rescue, so we're not talking about it publicly yet because as you may or may not know, we hope for the best, and we have gotten to the 11th hour and a laboratory has changed their minds. And so we try to be pretty sure, and of course it can happen whether we are sure at the moment or not, but we're just in the middle of working with a rescue partner right now to bring some beagles, to get some beagles out of a lab and bring them up to Canada. We're hoping to do a little cross-country foster and adopt tour. So I'll keep you posted. That's why I think I might be there, because our last stop might be on the island at Bee's house, kind of Western Canada. So that's what we're working on.
Well, good luck. Yeah, it's the same here. You hold your breath till they're in the trailer. So
exactly, until we can see them or one of our rescue partners has them.
Until you pull out.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, thank you so much. Cannot thank you enough for being here and just this awesome casual talk. And thank you everybody for being here. And Jamie, thank you. We put you on the spot and really appreciate it. I'm going to check you guys out. Thanks for putting your link in there. And so, yeah, thank you all. I'm working on our next town hall. So hopefully there'll be a post and an email about that soon. In the meantime, really appreciate your support. Please join our newsletter if you haven't already. And we will talk soon, Sarien. And remember, this is going on YouTube. And I apologize for first off the lighting and then the camera. So it's
always a technical difficulty somehow, right?
True.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys. Take care.